I fear not the dark itself, but what may lurk within it. Welcome to Lurk, bringing you creepy, strange, and bone-chilling stories, with your hosts, Tim Harrison and Jamie Jackson.
Hey Lurkers, it's Jamie, and welcome to episode 17, where we're going to discuss the Jersey Devil. As I'm sure you've noticed, Tim is not here again, and I do have a different surprise because today we have a guest host.
Angelina.
Yes, Angelina of my personal posse, as I talk about. Tim calls her Agent A.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we had some scheduling issues, so Angelina's going to be here for this episode and next week's episode as well, the Shadow People episode.
Yes.
Because she's had some experiences as well.
Just a little.
Yes. So today we're going to discuss the Jersey Devil. Lots of different legends with this. Some of them, most of them, really far-fetched. So
it's all true.
Oh,
all of it.
All of it.
All
yes,
true.
Especially the one video.
yes, especially, the real footage that's not faked.
Yes.
Absolutely not
yes,
faked.
the real footage.
Yeah.
All right, so we're just going to jump in here, and you'll have to excuse my paper shuffling because I have tons of notes written all over the place. If you're not familiar, Jersey Devil lives in New Jersey, in an area known as the Pine Barrens, which is located in the southern end of the state. It's also called the Pine Lands, or just the Pines. It's the largest remaining example of an Atlantic coastal pine barren. It stretches across more than 7 counties of New Jersey, and it's been designated a natural preserve. It was actually the country's first natural preserve. And it's also listed as a U.S. biosphere and an international biosphere.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, no, lots of... I didn't really know
neat.
that until I looked it up. Something I didn't know right away. I usually know everything.
Yes.
I didn't know this, but now I do. And now I know, so now I know everything.
So now we can tell people.
It still remains a mostly rural reserve, and it contains about 1.1 million acres, which is a lot.
It's lovely.
Yes. So the soil in the area is very acidic, and that's actually from the pines. So pine needles are acidic. If you're a gardener and you have plants like hydrangeas or rhododendrons, they like azaleas. You can take pine needles and rake them up underneath of them, and it helps turn the soil acidic. The sand is referred to as sugar sand. I never found out why. It's still undisturbed, even though it's close to Philadelphia and New York City. It's kind of in between.
Because you can't grow anything on it.
You can't grow anything on it, so
Nothing.
it's probably swampy in areas.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. I don't really know.
Yeah.
There's also a location in it called the Blue Hole. I don't really want to go anywhere called the Blue Hole.
No, I did see the Blue Hole, not in person.
I haven't either.
But, yeah.
There's a bad joke in there. We're just going to leave that one. It's supposed to be 100 feet deep and 70 feet in diameter. So I've never visited.
It's like
something
the one in Mexico where they throw in the human sacrifices.
Yes, exactly. Was it
Without the human
sacrifices. Cenote? Is that what they call it?
Sounds right.
Does that sound? I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds good. That's what we're calling
good.
it. A cenote. They throw in dead
Full
people.
bones. Yeah.
But
But not this one. We don't think.
Yeah. Well, not that we know.
Not that we know of.
So the early Pineys, that's what residents of the Pine Barrens were referred to. I think they still kind of call them Pineys today.
That was my impression, yeah.
Yeah. It's not really a very nice reference. It's today it's not as degrading, but back then it consisted of people who were Quakers. It was Quakers who had been expelled from meetings, and Quaker meetings were like their communities. That's what they called. They had meeting houses, and they were communities, and they would go to a particular meeting house. And they were expelled from their meetings because they had gone to fight in the American Revolution, which they don't fight. That's against their beliefs. And then there were also outlaws and smugglers. There were Tory loyalists that were known as the refugees, who, despite their politics, ended up riding in packs and killed and robbed people willy-nilly.
It was everybody that nobody liked.
Yeah, basically it was all the misfits, and
they gave them all the infertile land and said, go live there.
Here's the crap land, go stay there.
This is where you live. And we have the good farmland. So yes.
So
pretty
they were
typical for the time.
Yes. Even today sometimes.
Yeah.
So there were charcoal making and glass making was common in that area. And actually, here's a little tidbit. The first mason jar was actually made in the area of the Pine Barrens.
I did not know that.
See, now you know.
Very interesting.
And knowing is
half
the battle. Gee, I know. Wood cutting and cabinetry. The desk that Thomas Jefferson sat at to write the Declaration of Independence also came from this area.
Huh. Very interesting.
So even though it was kind of a crap area, some
stuff came out.
Some stuff, yeah.
Just not crops.
No. Pine trees.
Yeah.
The Lenni Lenape Indians, or Native Americans, lived on this land. It was an area that they lived. Supposedly, they referred to the area of the Barrens as, I'm totally going to murder this word because I didn't look up the pronunciation in it, and that probably would have been wrong. Papuesing, which is supposed to mean place of the dragon. I really didn't, couldn't find the word to look up the meaning. That's what I read. I'm believing it because it fits with my story. So whatever. But then apparently Swedish explorers called it Drakekill, which means dragon river. So there's that too.
Okay.
I don't know. That's important. Seemed important. In 1938, the Jersey Devil was appointed as the state demon. I don't really know that all states have a state demon. Most of them are the government officials. Yes. We're not going to, exactly. we don't discuss politics. I don't care what they believe system.
I believe they have the distinction of being the only state with a state demon.
Yes, so. With an actual state demon, not the ones elected by the people.
Yes.
And it was a kangaroo-like creature. We'll get into that in a minute. The Jersey Devil, most of the legends say that it was actually born to a woman with the last name of Leeds. It was born in an area that is also known as Leeds Point. At one time, the devil was also the devil. Yeah, well, the Jersey Devil, not the devil, not the actual devil.
He came down to Georgia. He went to Jersey first.
Yes, and knocked up Mrs. Leeds.
And that's right.
Which that
birth.
That legend could be just as believable as any of the other ones.
It could be. The Leeds Devil.
The Leeds, yeah. Well, the Leeds Devil was its other name because it was supposedly born at Leeds Point.
Yeah, I think all the way up until the 20th century that it was referred to as the Leeds Devil until
the Jersey Devil.
That time that we haven't gotten to yet.
Right, the Jersey Devil is a newer name. Yeah. Leeds Devil is actually, but there's stuff we're going to explain all of it. It's all going to become clear at the end.
Crystal, probably
not, but we'll try. It's crystal to me, like 1735-ish. Is that the year you have? 1735.
Yep, 1735.
Right, then 1735
for the supposed birth.
Yes. There's so many legends here that we're going to touch upon. They are all ridiculous. There is not a non-ridiculous legend. They're all ridiculous.
Absolutely, 100% true.
Mrs. Leeds. That's the most common name, is just Mrs. Leeds.
Or Mother Leeds.
Or Mother Leeds also was in there.
Yeah.
Some say it was Jane Leeds. I don't know. Jane is a very generic name.
And others say Deborah. If you look this up on that glorious thing called YouTube, right, you will find Jane and Deborah thrown all over the place with two different husbands thrown all over the place. And the information is really interesting because it's all very confusing and sort of folds back on.
I am going to foreshadow and say Deborah is actually the most accurate thing about what we're talking about right now. But we'll just call it Mrs. Leeds because that's the easiest. Yep. Except for one of them, I think, says something different. I don't know. Anyway, basically, Mrs. Leeds has 12 children, and she discovers that she's pregnant with lucky number 13. One legend says that because it was the unlucky number 13, that was the reason why the child was cursed, just because it was a 13th child. I think that's a bunch of bull, because then you'd have a lot of Jersey Devils in various states because they were the 13th child, because people back in the day had a crap ton of children because none of them survived.
There's also an interesting little thing that I got from a professor from Rutgers who speaks on this. He said that she said a prayer, "Lord, let this 13th child not be a child, but a devil." That was what he said, which I thought was rather amusing because honestly, why would you wish that on yourself after you already have 12 kids?
Right.
So,
right.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's another variation that said she just kind of was frustrated with being pregnant again because there was no birth control.
Right.
Other than abstinence.
Yeah. Separate houses.
Yeah, exactly. She just kind of was like, let this one be the devil. Like, she was so frustrated with being pregnant, she just said, let this one be the devil. The hell with it. I'm done with these kids, because if I had 12, I would probably feel cursed.
In hindsight, she should have rephrased that.
She should have. She probably shouldn't have said that. So either way, whether it was cursed because it was number 13, cursed because she cursed it, or a combination, the child was cursed. It gets born.
With the help of the midwife?
Yes, there's midwife. I'm going to say midwives because a couple of stories referred to more than one midwife in the room. I don't really know that to be very true. Usually it's just one. Maybe two. If you watch the Netflix show Midwives, sometimes there were two there. Mm-hmm. We'll say two. There were two. So the child is born. One story says that after it is born, it's born as a normal looking child. Some say it's blonde hair, blue eyed. I don't know, but it grows horns, it grows wings, it grows hooves and a tail, and flies up the chimney and out into the Pine Barrens.
But you missed the horse head. It grew that too.
Well, that in the description it didn't say that, but it had a horse head. In the one legend I saw, it just said tail, horns, hooves, and flew out the window. I guess they didn't. It was too quick. They didn't see.
Which is part of the interesting thing about this is that depending on, I mean, there are 15 different sources and 15 different legends.
Yes.
And every single one has a different take on it. Not one of them will be exactly the same.
Yes, because then there's the
Except
one.
For the truth,
right.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, that's going to be towards the end. Yeah. So then the other legend says that it grew all the things and then it attacked. It killed midwives. Yeah. Maimed others. Maimed its own mother.
8 to 12 children. One of them said 8 to 12.
Only
said,
one. Yeah. One said that it ate the other 12 children and it flew out the window.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or flew up the chimney.
Yes. One says flew up the chimney. This one, when it said it killed people, it flew out the window. I don't know. I guess it overate. I'm not really sure.
I hope that was a really wide chimney.
I don't know. It's baby sized, so. Yeah.
That's
babies
true.
Can probably fit down a chimney.
I guess they could.
Santa Claus fits down a chimney, but
so
he's
it
magic.
morphed into this devil thing, demon thing, and then didn't get large. It stayed small, and then flew up the chimney, and then it got big,
and then grew. I don't know. I have no idea. Nothing really.
100% true.
Nothing discussed that.
Old legend, right?
Yes. So then there's another variation that says that Mrs. Leeds was actually the mistress of a British soldier. Mm-hmm. And British soldiers were not well liked. This is pre-revolution. So there's anti-British sentiment already going on in the colonies, which is where we are. And that she was also suspected of being a witch because, of course, that's got to come in. And that she cursed the child and it was born covered in hair and then terrorized the area and ate children. So I did find one that ate children.
There you go.
It didn't eat her children, other children. It just ate children in general. Children. It walked around eating children.
But it was hairy, not batty. So
yes, and that it was born with hair, which is a condition.
Yeah, it is.
It happens in Hispanic.
Is it porphyria?
No, porphyria is like the vampire disease.
Oh, that's right.
It's trichosis.
Yes, something like that. I could Google it.
I could Google it, but I'm not going to. Just look it up yourself. Hairy people. Look it up. It happens a lot in Hispanic families. Mm-hmm. Not only, and I'm not dissing any one race or another. It's a genetic thing. It has to do with genetics. If you watch daytime television talk shows, you've probably seen families like this because they've been on like Maury Povich. So the Jersey Devil is, of course, blamed for a number of things. Crops failing. Cows no longer give milk, droughts, it's blown off the top of trees, made streams boil, blamed for loss of all livestock that's died in the Pine Barrens. Basically, if something happens, you stub your toe, you get a hangnail, it's the Jersey Devil's fault.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot like the Salem witch trial.
Pretty much.
Yes.
But at the time, they would have referred to it as the Leeds Devil.
It would have been the Leeds Devil.
Yes. At that time, yeah.
Except everybody now knows it as the Jersey Devil.
Right, yeah.
So, JD... as I have it abbreviated in my notes. Good old JD.
Good old JD.
Basically, as far as description goes, we already mentioned some of it, but people who saw it said that it had a long neck. Its wings were bat-like, so not feathered. They would have been skinned, so kind of leathery looking, the way a bat wings. Its back legs were like a crane, which is a bird. They were skinny, and they had horse's hooves on the back legs. So skinny legs with horse hooves, and that the arms or the front legs were stumpy and had paws. So it had paws on its arms, hooves on its legs, and a face like a horse or a camel. So the face was long. Mm-hmm.
And there are variations on this one too, even
Yes.
on the, because there are also some that talk about goat legs and goat feet.
And kangaroo is a description.
Is another. Yeah. So
this is the official. This
oh,
was
and
like
serpentine tail. That was the other one.
Yes, it does have a tail.
Times.
It does have a tail.
Yeah.
It has horns. They didn't fall off. Like he grew them when he was born. They didn't go anywhere.
We don't.
They didn't. They didn't fall off.
Yeah.
Unless he's a lizard and then somebody tried to catch him.
Sharp teeth, not horse teeth, which I don't know how.
I never really saw much about its teeth.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, anyway. So I have another kind of ridiculous story about the Jersey Devil before we get into the more serious sightings. Captain Kidd, the pirate, he was known to be in this area. We mentioned him before in the Old House Woods episode. He was reputed to have buried treasure in Barnegat Bay. When he buried the treasure, he killed one of his men because they believed that the ghost of the murdered pirate would guard the treasure forever. I don't know why they think somebody would be loyal to them after killing them and cutting off their head.
Lack of logic there.
I don't know. Apparently, it was a pirate thing because this is a similar legend regarding pirates that they would kill somebody in their crew to hang out and guard the treasure for all eternity.
Fun time.
Yes, I know. The claims are that the headless pirate and the Jersey Devil become friends, and that they're seen in the evening walking along the Atlantic and the nearby marshes. So there's like, farmersonly.com. It's like paranormalonly.com.
On the beach.
Yes, if you like pina coladas.
Besties forever.
I know, yes. They have those like two halves necklace things. They have this as best friends. I don't even think they have those around anymore. So that's one story with the Jersey Devil. I actually saw another story looking for other things that there's another ghost. There's several ghosts in the Pine Barrens. One's the ghost of a blonde-haired girl. I didn't really go into detail with that. One is there was a doctor who was a black doctor, and he obviously nobody really wanted him to be the doctor. He kind of took off to the Pine Barrens and there because he would have been an outcast, and he still practiced his medicine in the Pine Barrens, and he died, and his ghost is said to still be in the area or something.
Okay.
But I saw something where the Jersey Devil is like friends with one or both of them too. So he hangs out with dead people. I don't know. There's also stories of black dogs in the Pine Barrens, which with Old House Woods can be a cryptid. Yeah. Like the black shuck. It's also said that black dogs guard treasure, pirate treasure. But there was also a story saying that there was a ship that was attacked by pirates and that everyone was killed, and two of the people killed were the cabin boy and his black dog, and that it's the ghost of this boy's dog that is seen in the Pine Barrens.
A lot going on in the Pine Barrens.
Yes, and the Jersey Devil's friends with all of them.
Yes.
They're all besties. They play poker on Saturday nights.
That's right. There should be a painting for that.
There should. I would totally buy it and hang it in my office.
Way better than dogs.
It would be way better than dogs. So there were a couple of famous people who claimed to have seen the Jersey Devil in the 1800s. Commodore Stephen Decatur was an American naval hero. He was born on the eastern shore of Maryland and was the youngest man to receive the rank of captain in the history of the United States Navy. Go Navy, beat Army. Stephen Decatur went to visit the Hanover Mill Works to inspect cannonballs that were being forged, which would be important for the Navy. While he was there visiting the firing range, he saw a flying creature flapping its wings, and it was apparently quite large, so he fired a cannonball directly at the creature and said that he hit it, but it had no effect whatsoever, and the creature flew away.
Because that's what we do when we find really neat things that fly that we don't know what they are.
Well, that's what they did.
Shoot them.
That's what they did back then.
Yes, they did.
Yes.
Yes. Some people still do.
Yes, they do. So this creature was large enough to be hit with a cannonball, and he did see it get hit and nothing happened, which reminds me, because I really think everything is connected in some way, shape, or form. If you remember the Skinwalker Ranch with the dog, the wolf that showed up, it was shot 6 times and had little to no effect on it, and it took off. So this thing gets hit with a cannonball, nothing happens at all.
Shot through the wing.
Shot through the heart. The next one, I had the year 1812, and the former king of Spain saw the Jersey Devil. So Joseph Bonaparte was the older brother of his better-known brother, Napoleon Bonaparte, and Napoleon appointed Joseph the King of Spain. And then when Napoleon fell and was exiled, Joseph fled to America, and he built his house in New Jersey, not too far from Philadelphia. In the rural area, but close enough to be near the city.
Which was also close to the Pine Barrens.
Yeah, it wasn't that far from the Pine Barrens. No. It's not far from Philly or New York.
Right, exactly.
It's pretty close to both of those, which is weird to have such a rural area so close to such large cities.
Yes, that has remained largely rural and unsettled because it's just crap land. I mean, well, as we would term it, I'm sure that
it's very
wonderful natural environment is intact because of that, thankfully.
Yes. I mean, I'm happy that it is rural.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I have not been to the Pine Barrens. I've been to New Jersey, different areas, but I've not been to the Pine Barrens.
Me neither.
It's on the list of things to do.
Yep.
I mean, I'm thrilled that it still remains basically rural and natural because I love that. I love outdoors. So
I'm sure the wildlife appreciates it for sure.
Yes. So I'm not trashing it because it hasn't been developed.
No.
I'm glad it hasn't been developed. Thankful for the acidic soil. Happy that it hasn't been overdeveloped because I don't like that.
And from what we've seen, it looks like a beautiful area. So
yes, definitely. So in 1812, Joseph Bonaparte was out hunting alone on his property. And while he's out there, there's snow on the ground. It's winter months. So, snow months. I don't know. You can get snow in the fall.
Yeah.
And in the spring. Especially New Jersey's a little farther north than where we record.
Yeah,
so
definitely into March.
Yeah. He sees some strange tracks that he said looked like the tracks of a 2-footed donkey. With one foot slightly larger than the other. This donkey's got some problems.
Yeah.
He sees these strange 2-footed donkey tracks. And he follows them, and the tracks ended abruptly as though whatever the creature was flew away. Or disappeared, I guess. Could be another possibility. But in this one, we know it has... We know what we're talking about has wings.
Right.
So it looked like it flew away. And then he's staring at the tracks, trying to figure out what the animal is, because he's a hunter. So he's familiar with... I mean, he's not from the area, but England and the United States really aren't very different, animal-wise.
Right.
And he's been hunting there. He's been there. So he wouldn't have an idea of what is around his house.
Right.
So he's staring at the tracks, trying to figure out what's going on. And he hears a hissing noise. So he turns to see what the noise is, where the noise is coming from. And he comes face to face with a large winged creature that had a horse-like head, bird-like legs. And Bonaparte freezes. The creature hisses at him and then flies away. So Joseph, he always kind of kept an eye out for the creature after that. He would go out looking for it before he eventually returns to Europe, where he's reunited with his wife in Italy, and he never saw it after that encounter.
I'm sure he was relieved.
Yeah. I mean, at least he kind of kept an eye out for it.
Yeah.
It might have been one of those things where he wants to see it, but...
Kind of like ghosts.
True. I don't know how... I don't know how scary something with a horse head would be for me.
Well, if it had wings and goat feet or donkey feet, that might be.
But that's still
bizarre.
More silly. It just sounds like somebody plopped together something with spare parts.
Yeah. Yes.
Like if
the joke of a taxidermist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like how terrifying.
It's like a jackalope.
Exactly. Jackalopes aren't scary. How terrifying is something with a horse head and skinny little legs?
Yeah.
And hook.
Unless it breathes fire. That would have been cool.
I was going to say that. I honest to God was going to say, if it breathes fire,
that
maybe
takes it up a level.
But even the hissing, mentioned before that, I think, it was the owl man made hissing noises. Owls make hissing noises.
Right, they do.
Who knows? Was it an owl? I don't know many owls that have horse heads. And this was during the day.
We know of some other creatures that
we do.
So that'll come later.
We're going to bring that up. So those are the two famous people who were known to have. And you said you found where he actually formed a posse to go.
Yeah, that was, I in one account, they said that he formed a posse to go and capture the creature, which they never did. So.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
The Jersey Devil sounds like something I would want as a pet.
It's kind of like the Tasmanian Devil.
Yeah. Well, he's kind of, crazy. He busts things up.
But given the time and their connection to it being some demonic, horrific creature, maybe not. Maybe nobody wanted
Yeah, I mean, the stories are that it's a demon. Here I am like, oh, he's a little demon.
So,
Come on and be my pet. I'll name you Bert.
Back in the 1800s, I'm guessing that nobody wanted to take it home.
Yes, well, in the 1980s, I would have taken it home and it would have lived in my room in a box. It was a little
like
bigger
a sea
than a
monkey.
box. Yes, exactly. I had sea monkeys.
I did too.
So we're going to jump ahead. So it was 1812. Do you have anything between 1812 and 1909?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Nothing significant.
Neither do I. I didn't find anything. And per usual, most of I looked online for some stuff, but newspapers.com, which they really should sponsor us because that's where I look for most of my stuff.
Yeah.
Because while the media isn't always factual, 100%. And
especially back then. Well,
exactly.
Especially now.
I mean, it's no different.
It's no different. But they would come up with some crazy stories to sell newspapers.
Yes.
And,
or they would take the word of people that were telling crazy stories to sell newspapers. But
and then embellish it.
Exactly. But that's where you can get like firsthand accounts of people who were there witnessing the event. Mm-hmm. So I try to find newspaper articles, and you would be surprised at how many newspaper there are articles about paranormal events. Yeah. Back then. Not as much today. But back then, it was crazy. Yep. There was a week in January of 1909 where there were 30 different sightings reported in police and newspaper accounts, and that included the areas of Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware, in addition to New Jersey. Which is interesting because around the same time in Maryland, there's also a creature that is a flying creature with leathery wings, serpent tail, beak, strange creature. It's called the Snallygaster. We are going to talk about it. It is an episode that'll be coming up not soon, but it's on my list to record, so it'll be soon. So
it's a little crossover there.
A little crossover. So anyway, during this week, there were apparently hundreds of sightings, and there were reports that it actually attacked a trolley car. The sightings were so bad that they closed the schools and businesses, and people stayed indoors. And there were vigilante hunters roaming the Pine Barrens trying to shoot the creature.
And this is true. This really did happen. People panicked and they really believed. I mean, I'm not saying the sightings were all true, but this panic was actually documented. It really was a thing. They really did close schools. That's not. Yeah. It was pretty significant.
Yeah. The local schools closed. Businesses made the decision to close to keep their employees inside and safe. Yeah,
people were terrified.
Yeah, they were completely terrified. Yep. And then after the 1909 sightings, the community wanted an explanation. So they went to the scientific community, who, if you remember from the not Jaws episode, but the 1916 New Jersey shark episode, right? Scientists didn't really have all the information, but people thought that they did. You know, the whole sharks don't attack humans and can't bite your leg off. Yeah. So they went to the scientific community to ask for explanations. And there were science professors from Philadelphia and experts from the Smithsonian Institution who thought the Jersey Devil was a prehistoric creature from the Jurassic period. New York scientists thought it was a marsupial carnivore. So basically a meat-eating kangaroo. Or a possum, because possum is actually the only marsupial in North America. Right. So it was a meat-eating possum with wings.
That was really, really big.
That was like 7 feet tall, 7 foot tall. That would terrify me. I love possums. They're so cute, and I think they're great. I think they're cute, but if it was 7 feet tall and had wings and could scare I would not want that as a pet.
Very sharp little teeth.
Yes, they do. It would bite your face off. Yes. I'm just like, but they would play dead, so you'd be like, boo, and it would flop over, which isn't really how it works, but The scientists who were kind of looking for a creature that would fit this description, they looked at the records of living and dead species, extinct species as well, that would resemble the Jersey Devil, and they could not locate anything that would match the description. But this is...
Can't imagine why.
I know. There actually is one that I'm going to bring up. But back then, they only have the knowledge up to 1909 discoveries. There have been tons of discoveries since then.
Well, in the dime museums, that came up in 1909 as well, if I'm not mistaken. That I don't recall the man's name. He was a businessman, but he basically glued bat wings onto a kangaroo and said that he had at the time, the Leeds Devil. And people paid their quarter or whatever it was back then, 5 cents, I have no idea. And they bought into it. So
it's kind of like the sideshows.
Yes, it's exactly what it was.
Come see the
like
Fiji mermaid. Yep. See the cows with 2 heads.
Yeah, it was a huge draw. So
yeah. I mean, what did they have? They didn't have TV.
No, let's go see the Leeds Devil.
Yeah, let's go see
And I mean, it's not like kangaroos were common here at that time. I believe, what did he call it? The Australian...
Vampire? Was that what he called it?
He called it the Australian vampire, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Was it alive or was it taxidermy?
It was taxidermied, yeah.
I was just making sure, because we discussed earlier when we were talking about stuff that back in the day, Barnum and Bailey Circus had a show, and it was like they had a living unicorn.
A goaticorn.
And I was so excited. I was going to see the unicorn because I loved horses. And when they presented their magical unicorn, it was a frickin' goat with a horn. So it was
not a unicorn.
Very disappointing. So I would imagine this is much like that. There would have been a lot of hype, and I would have looked at it and been like, "It's a freaking kangaroo," you know, like
with bat wings.
With bat wings,
yes.
You glued the wings on.
Yeah,
it's a jackalope. So the superintendent in 1909, superintendent of Philadelphia Zoo offered a $10,000 reward for the capture of the devil, but it remains uncollected to this day. I don't even know if it's still an actual active reward anymore, but nobody collected what I had said it remained uncollected, but I imagine at some point the Philadelphia Zoo was like, yeah, we're not going to keep this $10,000 in a kitty for somebody to bring in the devil.
Yeah.
The next year, 1910, in the Morning Post, there was an article that basically just reported that there were some chickens that went missing, and that had obviously been taken by a demon, because that's what happens to my chickens. And in the article, they mentioned that the Jersey Devil dates back to Revolutionary days, when a British soldier, as they put it, put up a job on a Jersey girl, and the result being Leeds Devil, which basically means a British soldier knocked up a Jersey girl, and then when the baby was born, it was the Jersey Devil, because that was a no-no. You didn't do that back then.
No.
So it does mention that, which is just another little, another legend. Just to throw another one in there because we didn't have enough.
Well, and to tie it in also, as we were talking with something else, in some of the stories about the Jersey Devil sightings in the 1800s, there's the story, and I don't remember if it was Bonaparte or Decatur that was saying that he saw the 2 hoof prints that were that disappeared. Basically, they were in the snow and then disappeared. Well, that coincides also with the Devil's footprints, which was sightings in England around February of 1855, and it was around the Exe estuary in East and South Devon. So who knows? I mean, did people hear about that, and did some of the legend from England get transferred over here? It's really hard to say, but it's interesting that they are almost identical, except for the source of them. I think in England the source was always unknown, although they believed it was the devil's footprints. I don't think it had the horse head and the goat legs and the bat wings, but perhaps it did. I don't think they really knew. They just thought it was some sort of demonic creature. Yeah. So it's interesting though that you have those 2 stories and they're so similar.
They're similar, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is how a lot of stories probably, you have somebody who comes from England, which happen all the time.
Yeah.
Who shares the story.
Get communication, because we had such close ties. So, we're going to know. It may take longer to get here, but we're still going to know. We're still going to get it. Right.
Exactly.
Ours. So, yeah.
Exactly. So, there's an interesting story about one possibility here is that there's an actual creature that people are seeing that is an unknown creature, but it's real. It's just not something that's typical of the area, which we'll get into more in the theories end of things. But just to prove that it's possible that something strange could show up and freak people out, in 1912, there is an article. It was May of 1912, and fishermen had captured a strange creature after what they said was quite a battle. So it took them a bit to get it in the boat. And they declared it to be the Jersey Devil. They said that, others said it was obviously some token of impending evil, the way it looked. And they said that it had a head like a snapper, which would be a snapping turtle, a mouth filled with teeth, a body over a foot long. It was bright green in color, had 4 legs and feet, and a tail at least 3 feet long, closely resembling a snake. Any idea what it is?
Turtle?
No, it had a giant long tail, 3-foot tail. 3-foot tail, bright green, head like a snapping turtle, lots of teeth in its mouth. Give up.
Yeah, I give up.
It's an iguana.
Oh my. That's funny. Okay, yeah. No context for them there.
No context. Yeah. They was identified. Basically, what happened was there was another fisherman in the area who had been down in southern waters, like towards the Caribbean, and had actually seen these and knew it was an iguana, like was familiar with it. So chances are it hitched a ride on a boat or somebody caught one and brought it home. It got away. They do swim. Right. There are marine iguanas on the Galapagos Islands, and they swim in the water all the time, swim island to island. So
it's the Jersey Devil.
Yes, the Jersey Devil. Little smaller than what I'm picturing for the Jersey Devil. But that just goes to show you strange things that really aren't strange. It depends on your context. So if you take it out of context, an iguana's pretty freaking strange for 1912 New Jersey.
Oh, gosh.
In the water.
Yeah, sure.
You know, that's pretty freaky.
Yep.
So this is another thing about what the origin of the Jersey Devil. This brings up another thing. It was an article in a newspaper, December 18th, 1925. It is an interview with a man named James Henry Mick, and the headline is actually pretty long. It says, "Half-witted boy of Pines was original Jersey Devil. James Henry Mick, famous Jersey Devil, a myth originated from stories told of a demented boy. The boy could not talk, barked like a dog, lived nearly naked in the pine forest. Mick did not see the boy himself. He was told the story by his father, and this is the true, quote-unquote, story according to Mr. Mick. In 1860, at Chatsworth, there was a glass factory owned by Thomas Richards. This factory employed 100 men, among whom was a man named Leeds, who lived in Chatsworth. There were 5 or 6 children in the Leeds family. The youngest, a boy who lived until he was 15 years old, never learned to talk but would bark like a dog. The boy would never wear clothes. He ran at large through the pine woods, only going to his father's house when he was hungry. He never attacked anyone, but shunned all human companionship. He was not vicious. He died a little past 15 years old of natural causes, and people who saw him talked of the wild animal of human form and referred to it as, which was said he was the Jersey Devil. Now, season 1, episode 5 of everyone's favorite television show, The X-Files, the episode is actually called The Jersey Devil. And it is basically a family of wild people who are cannibalizing humans. Like, it opened...
Love The X-Files.
I know, it's like the best show in the world.
The X-Files.
Yes. It really is not too far-fetched, this story that this guy is telling, because...
Well, it's not. It isn't. That story is not far-fetched because of the way that people were viewed that had mental and physical disabilities. I mean, it's actually very understandable why a story like that would come about. And at that point, too, I think you're so far removed from the original story of the demon baby that people were looking for more realistic explanations because... You know, in 1925, you have a different mindset than you did in 1735. So the idea of a demon baby is most likely not going to be a story that rings true, as it might have in 1735. So I think that is a much more plausible explanation for the time. It makes a lot of sense.
Oh, completely.
You
know, it's like they didn't understand things like autistic kids. There was no autism spectrum, and a lot of kids that were born that had any kind of disability of any kind, they were institutionalized. And
in this case, you're talking about the Pine Barrens, which already has a reputation for being a place where certain people may not have been very well off, and they wouldn't have had the means to do that. So who's to say that it's not, that there isn't some basis for truth in that story?
Totally feasible story. And there may have actually been a family just like this. It could have been a Leeds family because I think that name is relatively popular in that area.
They still live in the area, actually. So, and I think I read or saw something recently that said that the Leeds family still owns property in Leeds Point, or still owns Leeds Point.
I would imagine.
Something like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's they're there.
Yeah. So it's not a stretch to think that they had a child born with some sort of disability or or mental illness or anything like
that.
Right,
and I mean, that would have been common for any family line, of course. So
trust me, mine is not perfect.
Mine neither.
So then there's another story that I thought was kind of humorous. July 3rd, 1926. It is in the Montclair Times, and it's about a strange whelp litter is found. So basically they're saying there's a strange litter of some sort of animal that's been born in the woods. It says...
Little woodland creatures.
Yes. Pleasantdale section, West Orange, view the offspring of the famous Jersey Devil is part of the headline. Mother of strange animals leaps like a kangaroo. Its howl like the cry of a woman in terror. 10-year-old boy discovered litter of 9 strange animals in the woods behind his home. The story said that the mother of the dog bears, which is what they referred to, had made an appearance, and that there were stakeouts happening, hoping to catch the mother, because the mother is the Jersey Devil. These are Jersey Devil pups.
Right. Okay.
Yes. And it said, for many months, residents of some of the mountain sections of West Orange have been terrorized as a result of stories that a strange animal inhabited the wooded mountains. It is said to have been seen several times, but it moves so fast at the approach of a human that no 2 persons can agree as to its appearance. Some have classed it as a kangaroo, others as a big fox, and it has even been described as a mountain lion and wildcat. All who have seen the mysterious beast agree, however, that it has blazing eyes and a howl like that of a woman in distress. The animal's leaping is comparable only to that of a kangaroo, but like little Arnold Meyer reiterates, it is a real lion. So Arnold Meyer is the one who found the pups. And then it went on to say, only 4 of the litter remained in the stump. Arnold took 1, others were taken by mountain folk, and the Boy Scouts built an enclosure to protect the rest. So, yay, Boy Scouts, had to mention that. They went out and protected the last 4.
Shot them.
Nobody shot them. They all took them home. However, as it turns out, they were dogs. I'm going to guess.
What a surprise.
I'm going to guess.
Really ugly dogs.
Yes. Well, I think that if he's saying it was a real lion, I'm going to say it might have been like a chow mix.
Yeah.
Because chows have the big giant.
Yeah.
They look kind of like they have a mane anyway.
Yep.
It could have been any.
It
was probably
anything.
A mutt, really.
Yeah.
But I thought that was kind of funny.
Fox.
Yes. 1927, there's a creature that's seen and described. It's large, it's speedy as a fox, with 4 legs, also having feathers, and a cry that's part bark and part owl hoot. And the animal was scared up in a cedar swamp, hooting angrily, and took off with great speed. And there were gun club members who later were like, we're going to hunt the creature.
It's an ostrich.
That's what it is.
Sorry.
We totally have completely solved the mystery of the Jersey Devil. It's an ostrich. Case closed. We're done.
Sorry about that. I digress.
That's okay. That's okay. We're all
making
about fun.
myself laugh.
We're all about fun here.
I am making
An
myself
ostrich.
laugh. An ostrich.
I don't think they bounce like a kangaroo.
No, I was thinking of an ostrich, and I was like, but it sounds like an owl, so there you go.
I know. The ostriches
That's
make
kind of
noise.
how the Jersey Devil was born, though, isn't it? Like,
pretty much.
Let's take this over here and stick on that.
It has a
tack
tail.
on this.
And it, like, that account said that it had blazing eyes. There
Well,
were a lot of the description that we
Great
didn't
Horn.
mention. I know a lot of the description said that it had red glowing eyes.
Right.
That would be scary. Like, I don't want a pet with red glowing eyes.
It would be scary. And I'm sure for people that are walking in the woods at night and experience a great horned owl and look up to see that reflection of those owl eyes.
But they wouldn't
be
have
terrifying.
flashlights.
Full moon or something like that. I mean, the other day, this full moon out here, I could walk outside
Oh, yeah, it
put the
was
chickens
crazy.
away and all of that with a flashlight. So, yeah. Who knows?
I'm jumping ahead to 1960.
Okay.
1960, residents heard horrifying screams at night, and there was no explanation of the noises, and people began to panic. Police hung flyers assuring residents the Jersey Devil was a hoax, but a circus owner offered $100,000 to anyone who could capture the creature. No one ever collected that reward either, but it's just kind of funny that people are freaking out because they're hearing horrifying screams in the woods.
And that could have easily been, I'll tell you, one night I heard horrifying screams and I almost called the police because I thought that something really bad was happening. And I lived in a quiet neighborhood at the time and found out the next day that my neighbor across the way got peacocks.
Oh, peacocks!
So if no one has ever heard a peacock, it is unlike anything.
It's like a scream.
It's a scream.
It's crazy.
It's like a scream, and actually foxes too at night.
They sound almost cat-like.
Almost sound, but from a distance, it's just this unnerving scream.
Also, rabbits, when something catches them, rabbits will scream when they are caught. And bobcats will scream. Yeah. Bobcats sound like a screaming woman.
Yeah, and you don't realize how close, when you have no context and you have no idea what it is, your brain wants to go to something to make sense of what you're hearing. So, my brain wanted, the only thing that it could make sense out of was it was a screaming woman. And it wasn't. It was a peacock. And now I know what they sound like. They live next door to me.
Peacocks are very pretty, but
I don't. Home, but they're loud.
They're loud.
They're loud. They're very pretty, but they're loud.
Very pretty, but they're very loud.
Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of funny that here the police are hanging up flyers saying, "Don't worry, the Jersey Devil's not real." And then you got the circus. Hey, we'll give $100,000. Anybody who catches this, Jersey Devil.
Anybody who can glue some wings onto the back of a kangaroo.
Pick up some roadkill and slap some wing on that puppy. And then in 1972, there was a woman who claimed to have seen the Jersey Devil crossing the road behind her car. She said it was about 25 feet behind the car, and she said that it was taller than any man. It had thick haunches like a goat and a woolly head. So there's a description who had the kind of like, if you think of Pan.
Right, yeah.
The Pan creature, which was half man, half goat. Mm-hmm. Haunches, basically, if you look at a goat, the back legs have like a big...
The dip and then the point.
It's got like a big circle and then it goes down. That's what haunches are. Basically, it's like their thighs or their butt, kind of, where it meets their butt. So, large haunches, like a goat, and a woolly head, and it was taller than a man. Goat man, basically.
I saw Goat Man, but that's another story. Not for real.
I know.
Not for real.
I know. I'm thinking, is that the cardboard cutout that you saw?
Yes, it is in the woods. That was great. That place was great. It was so much fun. Yes. Yeah, taking the Jeep out on the trails in Pennsylvania. Fun times.
Only in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
1980. Do you have anything before 1980?
I do not. My next one is 2004.
You got any twos?
There.
Go fish.
Go fish. There. And the fact is, there are stories. I did actually watch a video that he sort of compiled all of these stories from 1735 up to kind of to present, but it was a little kind of run on. It was really hard to figure out where one ended and another began. But my point is, they are out there. If you do Google, if you go into newspapers.com, if you look up the Jersey Devil or the Leeds Devil, depending on the time, you will likely find more accounts. And who's to say that you didn't have reporters that were like, well, it's a boring Sunday.
Let's make up a
story about a Leeds Devil sighting. And I do think that they did that. I have examples in my own family history where some of the things are just hilarious that I know aren't true.
I know exactly
but they're in the newspaper. So, my fourth great grandfather was raised by gypsies. I mean, literally in the news. He was not.
My grandmother threatened to sell me to the gypsies.
That's more likely.
On many occasions.
But, and honestly, he may have told them that story. Who knows? But yes, so there are definitely sightings along the way. They're not all documented in here because I'm sure there'd be too many. But as for, it changed every sighting.
It was always different.
Head, and you have the bat wings, and you have the creature with the, I don't know.
It's nuts.
It's nuts.
It's nuts.
It's hard to keep track of.
It is. And it just, there were tons. I pick and chose the ones to talk about from the newspaper. There's tons of accounts in the 1920s, all over the place.
Yeah.
But
and then when you get into the 60s and the 70s, you talk about, let's pull a little Mothman in here, But then you're also talking about a time in West Virginia, Ohio, and I think even parts of Kentucky where they were seeing Mothman. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't And this was prominent in local news. I don't know, if AP was picking it up too, and it probably. So there was a lot going on kind of around that time.
There was a lot going on.
A lot of sightings of many different things. Mm-hmm. So it would make sense that, and if you think about it, if that is what you have as your reference point, this story of the Jersey Devil that goes back to the 1700s, for a lot of people, that's going to be the first thing that their mind goes to, no matter what it is. Mm-hmm. It's always going to be the Jersey Devil.
Yes.
Because that's their point of reference.
Yep.
So.
I know. Jersey Devils, you see a weird caterpillar, it's a Jersey Devil. That's a baby Jersey Devil. That's a baby. Getting ready to spin his cocoon. And then he's going to come out and be a beautiful butterfly with his horse face and his bird legs. So 1918, there's a ranger. And this one I believe because of who he is. He's the chief ranger at Wharton State Forest, which is part of the Pine Barrens. Yes. It's in the Pine Barrens. Yep. And he responds to a report of the death of a pack of pigs. Mm-hmm. And the animals had been brutally killed. The backs of their heads were eaten and their bodies were scratched and torn. But there were no footprints around the bodies and no blood on the ground, which is very strange. I think this is a true account because of who it is. It was an actual report. It wasn't like some guy saying, my pigs, the farmer saying, well, my pigs got eaten. It was like he was called to the scene in the forest. This is weird. I don't even know what would do that.
Well, then you start to get over into that crossover of cattle mutilations and things
exactly.
I mean, because those stories do go back. But it's not like they just started in the 60s and 70s here. They go back for, I believe, hundreds of years. There are accounts.
Most of them are documented like from the 70s, 60s, and 70s.
Most of them,
when they
absolutely.
Started.
Yes. But there are some odd one-off stories prior to that, too.
So, again, in the 80s, this was late 1980s. 1980 was the year the chief ranger went to the dead pigs. Mm-hmm. So later in the 1980s, there was a group that was camping and riding dirt bikes. And while they were riding down a trail about 100 yards from their camp, all of the bikes stalled. One of the riders said maybe it was because of the terrain or a nearby power plant, but as soon as the bikes stopped running, they heard an inhuman screaming coming from the woods. And when they returned to camp, those who had stayed behind at camp had also heard the piercing screams. No idea what they came from. Again, there's a million things that can cause screaming, but it was kind of weird with the bikes stalling.
And once again, you get all of these wonderful crossovers. And this is why I love this subject, because if you have a broad knowledge like you do, and like I like to think that I do, at least somewhat, there are so many parallels that you can draw that this is not a one-off thing. Mm-hmm. You're going to have some people that say it's Sasquatch and some people that say,
Like, with Mothman,
so who knows?
It reminded me of that because of the issues with the walkie-talkies and things. And there was also a power plant, they called the area, the building that Mothman was in was the power plant within the TNT area.
The TNT area, yep.
But there are power plants near there.
Yeah.
So again, just...
Oh, we can go back to our favorite place, Skinwalker.
I know.
There are parallels to that too. So there are a lot of tie-ins.
It's interesting.
It is very interesting. Yep.
1993. It's another forest ranger. He is driving along. I'm gonna butcher this name. The Mullica River or Mullica.
No, I think
Mullica. I think it's
Mullica.
I think it's It looks like Mullica.
But correct us if we're wrong. So
if I'm wrong, you can let me know.
If you're from there, tell us.
Yes, Mullica River is how I think it should be said. And while he was driving along the river, he sees a strange creature that's blocking the road. He said it was about 6 feet tall with horns and matted fur. Now I'm just thinking of a bison or buffalo. Do you know what I mean? Like that's...
In New Jersey?
Walking on two legs.
Walking on two legs.
Or I just totally got it.
I'm thinking of a late night at the bar.
It's Fred Flintstone in his hat. What was the name of...
you know what I mean? The Grand Poobah.
The Grand Poobah.
Yeah.
It's the Grand Poobah. That's what's running around there. Totally. Yeah. Oh, gosh. And then you have a 2014.
I have a 2004. And I think many people may be familiar with this because it was on Monster Quest. So January of 2004, Laurie Winkleman and her son are outside. It's nighttime. They are going to turn off their Christmas lights. And so she goes to a utility pole to pull the plug, and she is facing away from the trees towards her son. And she said she looks up and her son has a look of just sheer terror and horror on his face. And, you know, as any mother, she looks back to see what he's looking at. And what they see is a large winged creature that then proceeded to swoop from overhead. It swooped down over their heads and then up onto the roof of their house. There is snow on the ground. There is snow on the roof, and lands on the roof. They can hear it walking on the roof. I think she said that there was like a metallic clicking sound. They ran into the house screaming, terrified. And the next morning, the husband got photos of the prints on the roof. This is all on the Monster Quest episode. They are now in this episode. At one point, they talk about these prints being 9 inches long by 5 inches wide and 4 inches apart. In the police report that they actually do show on screen, it says that they are 6 inches long and 4 feet apart. They reported it to the police. The police estimated the creature to be about 200 to 300 pounds in the size of a bear. So they were not really able to identify what could have made the prints. They have a wildlife expert that talks about the fact that prints like that in the snow are going to be too distorted. I think it was a hunter / tracker friend of the family thought that they might have looked like Wolverine prints. So there was that. Now, they did have lie detector tests taken, both of them. They passed them. Whatever they saw, they really truly believed that they saw. They even did a reconstruction on that show, and it was a creature with, I don't want to give away our little friend over here, but that's kind of what it looked like almost. So this creature did not look like an owl. A wildlife expert, really felt that it was probably a great horned owl that they saw, because they do have orange eyes, and they're silent in flight. They have sharp talons. They have a very large wingspan, the largest of any owl in the U.S. So, but the creature that they saw, they did not feel was an owl at all. They had it being a dark creature with bat-like wings. The face was more, I don't want to say that it was really like a horse face. I mean, I'll say it was more elongated, more elongated and kind of bat-like, just larger. So they did see something. They absolutely did. They absolutely experienced something, and there were footprints on their roof. As to what it was, jury's still out. They did not find anything. There were many, many deer that they found on this Monster Quest episode out there, but nothing really beyond that. So
it was the Jersey Devil.
It was Jersey Devil, but they truly do believe what they saw, and I'm sure that has to be really scary and startling, and you're not expecting that, especially if you don't have, again, a point of reference. If you've lived there for a while and if you've been out there at night many, many nights for years and you've never seen anything strange, to see something like that and for it to happen so quickly, I can only imagine that your mind is going to fill in things, because we do that. It was an interesting case for sure.
It would scare the crap out of me.
It would scare me too.
Especially if you don't know what it is.
Right.
And like we were talking earlier before we started recording that, and it's kind of part of our theories, but I'm going to bring it up now because it's kind of pertains to this, is that back in 1800s, early 1900s, people hunted all the time. They had to hunt to actually get things to eat. Like that's where they got their food. They didn't go to local Giant or Food Lion to pick up a pack of burger. They either slaughtered cows or they went hunting. A lot of them supplemented by going hunting. It's free food. So being hunters and out in the woods, you learn to track, you learn to recognize the animals that were there. So I think that there was a creature that was not familiar with the area that kind of sparked a lot of these things, that it was an unknown animal. Today, like with this case, I think it's more, people don't hunt. They, you have more houses going up. You can't hunt your property a lot of times. You don't hunt. You go to the local Giant or Food Lion to pick up a pack of hamburger. You're not outside seeing the wildlife, so it's a misidentification of something that's typical of the area. It might not be common where you see it all the time.
Right.
But it's already there. So that's kind of where I think this is. That they believed what they saw, but what they saw really was something that is not seen all the time, but is in the area, and their brain filled in the gaps. And of course, you've got the legend of the Jersey Devil. Right. Everybody knows the legend of the Jersey Devil in this area. So that's where they go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I would tend to think.
Like if Xavier hears noises outside the tent, it's never a bear. Ever. It is Bigfoot. Always. Or the Chupacabra.
Yeah.
But, it's that kind of thing. Yeah. And of course...
And I mean, and there's always that remote possibility that it really was something that...
It could have been something strange. I mean,
who knows?
Stranger things have happened.
Yes, interdimensional. Who knows?
I guess the next set of things really has to do with the stuff that we think is cockamamie, as my grandmother would say. It's a cockamamie story.
Yeah. Well, and then you get into really the history of it.
Right.
Which is still very interesting, but far more mundane than,
I know.
than all of the crazy stories out there.
I'm going to completely bore you all with history.
Yes. So now you can get a drink, take a nap.
Yeah. Except it is fascinating but you're probably going to be disappointed at the end of it.
Yeah.
But there are some sightings that happen like I have one from October of 2015. There's a guy driving on Route 9 near the golf course. He says he sees a llama walking in and out of the trees. Totally unassuming llama, All of a sudden, the animal spreads its wings. He didn't see that it had sitting there on its back, and it flies away. And there is a video, and it is a hoax. There's another video that...
I want whatever he was drinking night.
I want whatever.
I will take a shot of that, sir.
I will get those videos and post links to the videos and stuff.
Because there is another one actually separate from that one. Yeah. Afterwards, I think it was taken by a female.
I think it's even more ridiculous.
It is pretty...
It's pretty dumb.
Pretty far out there.
It's good for a chuckle.
It is.
So the more recent ones really are bogus. It's people looking for attention on social media, basically is what it amounts to. I'm going to fake a video and post it on YouTube, get them tons of subscribers and try to make money. I think that's basically what the bottom line is. And
to throw this out there too for people who, we're not saying that all cryptids are fake.
Oh God, no.
So just to be clear about that, because I know since we are really kind of cracking down here on this legend, it doesn't mean that we believe that all cryptid sightings are fake. We don't. And another thing I want to point out, because this is something I've thought about in context to all of this, is that it's not impossible that some people really have seen some things that we might term cryptids. But again, because this legend is so huge in the area, it's always going to be attributed to the Jersey Devil. We do have to think about that. So if you take into account what people that you feel, or in the case of the 2004 case, that where they really did see something out of the ordinary, we can't 100% say, no, you absolutely saw a great horned owl. We'll never know because we weren't there.
And there's no photos.
There's no photos there. And the two witnesses in their own separate testimony, and, when they worked with a professional and did the drawings and all of that stuff, this creature came out as they both saw the same thing. So it is really interesting. Now, of course, I'm sure they discussed it and talked about it and all of that in the intervening time, years before that episode. But again, could it be something? Absolutely. Is it the Jersey Devil? I mean, then I guess you're talking about semantics, really what you want to call it versus what it may actually be.
Right.
Who knows? But yeah. I just wanted to mention that we're not saying that all cryptids are fake. That's
Bigfoot is totally real. Yeah. And I would never say otherwise because my grandson would beat me up. But I totally believe in cryptids. I think that our oceans are largely unexplored. You've got very densely forested areas of the United States.
And this is one of those places.
And this is 1.1 million acres of reserve.
Yes. So could people be seeing something that A, we haven't discovered yet, or B, really is truly not explainable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Absolutely. Now, all of the sightings? No, I don't think so.
No.
Maybe 1%, but still.
Yes. Well, I'm going to bring up our old friend, the sandhill crane, because
sandhill crane is everywhere, and he is responsible for everything. I love them. I love sandhill cranes.
Like sandhill cranes should just have their own. I don't know.
They should.
It's like they're Mothman. They were Owlman.
They were Owlman. Yes.
They were explained. They're used as an explanation for the Jersey Devil.
Yes, they were.
Now the Jersey Devil, I could actually say that's closer than Mothman. Mothman and sandhill cranes the descriptions were nothing close.
Right.
This, at least, the back legs were said to be crane-like, bird-like. The hooves,
unless you go
different.
With the goat sighting one.
Except the goat sighting. But the most common one was that it had the little legs. Okay. Yes. Or the oldest one, I should say.
Okay.
That was more the original one.
Okay.
The elongated face, you could take a long, if you see it at the right angle, the bill of a bird would be.
Talk about the back? Can we talk about the back?
Yeah, we'll talk about the back.
All right, good.
We'll talk about that next. That could be, so possibly, I don't think so, because they're not as large as what they're saying.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they have feathers, which these wings are constantly referred to as bat-like.
Well, and they definitely don't have a horse-like head.
No.
I mean, yes, they have a long neck, but it's certainly not a long, thick neck. It's a very thin neck.
Yes. And they don't, their face it's a pointy beak.
Yeah.
But
the sound they make is just, again, if you've never heard it, the first time I ever heard them, I was in Florida. And this thing was could hear it walking by the bedroom window. And I was thinking, what is that thing? And I woke Eddie up. I'm like, what is that thing? And he just laughed and he opened up the curtains and he's like, they're cranes. It's like, oh my gosh.
Chupacabra.
Yeah. I had no context and it was very strange, but that was it. I fell in love with them. I was like, these are the coolest birds in the whole world. So, yeah.
But they are that's like the explanation for every cryptid known to man.
Everything. It was a sandhill crane.
I saw that and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. When I read that when my research, I'm like, come on.
Of course it is.
I mean, have you seen a sandhill crane? Are the people who are suggesting that it's a sandhill crane, have they ever really seen?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to say, well, because of the beak, this and that, really, there's no way that a sandhill crane is the basis of this legend in any stretch of the
tail.
No, it doesn't have a tail. It's got feathers,
hooves,
not bat-like wings.
Yeah.
However, there is another real-life creature known as the hammerhead bat.
Which is super, super, super cool.
I would totally have one for a pet.
Yeah.
Because they are so cute.
So cool.
They are large bats, and they have I'm going to have to put a picture on social media, so check that out. They have elongated faces.
It's like a mini horse.
It's like a mini horse with bat wings.
So
Hello.
Cool.
I mean, they don't have a tail. So there's no tail, but
the leathery wings, they're very dark in color. They're not quite black. I think they're more of almost that deep blackish
They're
brown.
like a brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, the photo of
Very
the one I saw
cool.
was brown.
Yeah.
So is it possible? I mean, the iguana somehow the iguana was real that they found in 1926, I think.
Right.
I think it was 26. Anyway, that was very real. Right. Somehow it didn't swim from the Caribbean. It wouldn't have lived.
No.
So somebody brought it there because they thought, oh, I'm catching this. I'm bringing it home. And somehow it got away.
Right.
And
of course, we had ships coming from Africa.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So it is very possible that these bats were brought over because people did that all the time. They did bring, oh my gosh, that's why we have so many starlings. And so many European sparrows that are moving in and taking over everything.
We don't like those birds.
Not my favorites. Anyway,
snakehead fish are hugely invasive.
And we had such a terrible problem with them.
Zebra mussels are another issue.
Yeah.
So most of your invasive species have come about. People are, I don't remember what state it is, but there's a state who has asked people to stop releasing their goldfish into the lakes and rivers because they are carp and they can, under certain circumstances, survive, and they are competing. The fish that are there naturally cannot compete with them. Right. They're invasive.
And they're also really dirty fish. So they're dirtying waters that are really clear. But I mean, so yes, could it be a hammerhead bat? I think absolutely.
Oh,
I think that's originally, you know, from
the
original story in the beginning, because the descriptions really fit quite nicely with that. So
I think
it's
somebody
very possible.
brought one as a pet, like a cool animal to have.
At least one of the sightings, at least some of them,
yes.
I think could have been attributed to that.
Yep.
And they had a very large, I think it was up to 3 foot wingspan for those. And they are known to attack chickens, because I think that was one of the complaints, was that the Jersey Devil was attacking chickens.
They attack chickens.
They
did everything.
But they're so cool.
They are cool. I would keep one as a pet. Now, there's also a creature. It's not around anymore. It's called Dimorphodon. And this kind of goes along with the scientists who were saying in 1909, well, there's nothing on record right now that would explain what we think it is. Because they thought it was something from the Jurassic period. So I'm going to show you a picture. This is a Dimorphodon. Okay, so I'm going to put a photo of that on it as well. It has a tail.
Yeah,
it does. A very long tail. Bat-like wings. It's back
Sharp
legs.
teeth.
It has very sharp teeth. It has kind of like it's almost like a T-Rex head. Okay, but thinner. It's not. It has bat-like wings, like a pterodactyl. And if you look, its hands are on the wings, and they are paw-like. Yes, they are. And they would be considered short and stubby. So if the wings were closed, wouldn't it be cool? So for me, I think that it's possible that there are creatures from prehistoric times that have been able to adapt. Yeah. And they may not be exactly the way they were prehistorically, like with the fossils that have been found. But I think it's possible that they can adapt and find a way to live. I don't think they are now. Right. But I think in the 1800s.
Who knows?
I think most definitely there could have been some, or found somewhere, and again, somebody brought something back. I don't know if you're going to bring a giant flying bird back, like a dinosaur bird. This is my pet pterodactyl.
There's portals in the sky that open up, and they just
this is true. What if? I mean, Skinwalker Ranch.
Let's go back to our favorite thing.
Yes.
So I mean, who knows?
Exactly. So this brings us to the main theory, sort of.
The true story.
I am going to say that I am going to kind of burst the Jersey Devil bubble. So I'm sorry, but I kind of feel
all
like
Ben's fault.
Yes, this is true. Ben Franklin's his fault. That electricity really addled his brain.
Yes.
So I'm going to apologize. I am going to kind of squash this because I think this explains all of the legends. Yeah. Everything stemmed from the story that it's not a story, it's fact. Right. All of the stories and legends that came about with Mother Leeds came from this factual information. So I think
that is connected to this family.
It's connected to the Leeds family. So it is, in a way, it's doing away with all the legends. So there is no real legend of an actual Jersey Devil. Could there have been a strange creature or an unknown creature? Yes. People saw stuff. Right. I don't know what it was. Somebody shot a cannonball at it and, it was large enough to hit with a cannonball. It got hit and it kept on flying. So something was around. Right. Back in the 1800s. I don't think it continued.
But it had nothing to do with the original Leeds Devil.
Nothing to do with the original Leeds Devil. So I'm going to try, I did not type any of this up, so I'm going to try to piece this together from my memory. This came out of the genealogical and memorial history of the state of New Jersey. So I went to my genealogy, it's my other talent, I guess, my genealogy talents, if you will, to check out the Leeds family. Where did this legend come from? They didn't just pick the name out of the air. Right. So I found this book and read through. It's very boring. Well, actually, this family has an interesting history, but sometimes it's very boring because you find out who's married to who has what the children are doing, what children the children have. It can be very confusing and everything. Luckily, there is a little bit of history with this family, which made it easier to find information. Back in the 1700s, there is a woman. Her name is Deborah Smith Leeds. So Smith was her maiden name. And she married Japheth Leeds. And they together had 12 children. So Deborah Leeds has 12 kids between 1704 and 1726. She's married to Japheth, who is the son of Daniel Leeds. And he came to America in 1678 from England. He settled in New Jersey. In 1687, Daniel begins publishing an almanac. It's one of the country's first almanacs.
The Leeds Almanac.
It's the Leeds Almanac, yes. In his almanac, he included the use of astrology. And he and his family, the Leeds family are Quakers. They belong to the Quakers. Astrology is considered to be ungodly. And the Quakers referred to Daniel at one time as Satan's harbinger.
Worst thing you could do is call somebody Satan's harbinger.
Yeah, that was like...
Or a witch.
Or a witch, yes. Witch, kill the witch. I was like... In 1716, he retired and turned the almanac over to his son, Titan. Titan and Japheth are brothers. Okay, so he's uncle to Deborah Leeds' 12 children. Just so we try to keep... So it doesn't get confusing.
Yeah.
Titan, when he takes over the almanac, he redesigns the masthead of the almanac to include their family crest. The family crest contains 3 dragon-like creatures with clawed feet and bat-like wings. They're called wyverns.
Yes.
Okay? So I will put a picture of wyvern on social media and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Anybody who's into sci-fi or anything. I think when I was a kid, I read a book.
And I think the crest is available out there too. So
I
we
think
can
it is.
Post that.
Yeah, I'll
too.
see if I can find that and post that. So he redesigns the masthead. So now the almanac, the bad almanac that's, brought about by Satan's harbinger. Yes. It now has 3 dragon-like creatures that oddly have a description very much like the Jersey Devil.
Right.
So, mid-1700s, there is a lot of anti-British sentiment because we're getting ready to head into the Revolutionary War in America. The Leeds family sided with Lord Cornbury, who was the first royal governor of New Jersey. They sided with him, which was a huge, you didn't do that. So that put them in an unfavorable light.
So they're basically siding with Britain.
They are.
British
yes,
loyalists.
They're loyalists. When I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit, when Daniel, who is the person he's father to Titan and Japheth, grandfather to the 12 children.
Right.
When he came to America, he settled his land and he named it Leeds Point. So that is factual. This is all factual. I'm not making any of this up. This is all documented genealogy information. This is truth. Yeah. So he calls it Leeds Point. That's how that area got named. That's where the Jersey Devil's supposed to have been born. Isn't that interesting? His almanac was... Daniel's almanac, before he turned it over to his son, was suppressed by the Philadelphia Quarterly Meeting, which is Quaker meeting. That's what they called everything. Because in imitation of almanacs published in England, Daniel had added some light, foolish, and unsavory paragraphs, which gave great uneasiness and offense to Friends of Philadelphia. Friends of Philadelphia, the Quakers were called Friends, so it's the Quakers of Philadelphia didn't like it. He was being silly. You did silly things in the almanac sometimes. I mean, this was entertainment. Almanacs were entertainment. So he's doing what they're doing in England, and the Quakers are like,
Conservative over here.
Extremely. So the Leeds withdrew from the Society of Friends, and he ended up writing numerous pamphlets painting the heads of Quakerism in a negative light. So he basically went on the attack. He's like, we're done. We're leaving the Quaker meeting, and now I'm going to trash you.
Right.
So like if he had Facebook, there would be posts about the Quakers on Facebook and how awful they were. Back then, though, you could only publish pamphlets.
Right.
He had been a devout Quaker, but unfortunately, he was accused of inappropriate language, as well as symbols and names that Quakers said were too pagan. So the astrology and things like that, they said were too pagan. They actually took copies of they collected and destroyed any remaining copies.
Yeah, they did. They actually bought a bunch of them up.
They bought them and destroyed them
and burned them.
Yes, and Daniel Leeds apologized, but it didn't matter. The Quakers were like, nope, and the Leeds family was like, oh, nope, we're done.
Yep.
So
big rift.
Yeah. So Titan now that's kind of the history of Daniel, and the Quakers were like, nope, you're Satan. You're Satan's harbinger. We're done with you. His son gets it. Titan gets the almanac. He changes the masthead to include the crest with the 3 wyverns on it. So,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I mean, they're kind of cool creatures.
They're awesome.
Now we're going to include Ben Franklin in this because Ben comes into play. Yeah.
Stirring things up.
Right. So the Leeds Almanac was one of the first almanacs in the country. Well, now here comes Ben, and he's like, hey, I want to start my almanac. Yeah. And I don't really want to have any competition.
Right. Poor Richard's almanac was his.
That's right. Poor Richard's. He wanted to get rid of the competition for his almanac. So he kind of had a feud going with Titan Lead.
That he started. It was kind of a one-sided feud, really.
It was. Titan's like, yeah, I don't really have time to deal with you. And Ben Franklin he wanted to get rid of him and was trying to figure out things to do. Basically, what happens is that Ben Franklin jokingly predicts Titan's death and joked that Titan had died and returned as a ghost to haunt him.
Titan didn't think it was funny.
No, he didn't think it was humorous at all. Titan Leeds actually dies, and his death coincided very closely with when the birth of the Jersey Devil and all the legends happens.
Yeah, he dies in 1738.
Right.
And his death doesn't have anything to do with Ben Franklin, by the way, or the predictions. It's just that when he died, that's when these legends popped up around.
Yes. Interestingly, the family who had already been said, and I think they were referred to as devils because of being British loyalists. You had them referred to as Satan's harbinger.
Right.
They have
and pagan symbolism.
They have the wyverns, which were on their crest.
Mythical creatures. Yeah.
And this is, and I think they referred to him as the Leeds Devil. He was referred to as the Leeds Devil. This factual historical information, if you see there are bits and pieces of the Jersey Devil legend in here with the 12 kids and everything else. This is actually what brought about all those other legends.
Yeah. So it's very much based in fact. But, and again, like we had pointed out before, it was called the Leeds Devil all the way up until the 1909 sightings, whatever the flap.
Yeah.
So, yes. But it was never referred to as a Jersey Devil until after that time. And I think that was largely newspaper.
Yeah, pretty much,
that changed that. So.
Yes. So that is the Jersey Devil in a nutshell. I am not totally 100% saying there's no such thing. I think there was probably a creature at some point that is unidentified, either because they don't know what it is, it was strange and unusual for whatever reason, or because it was misidentified. I think the misidentifying part comes later. I think there was something strange that was being seen, and it just happened to be in an area that already had crazy legends about this thing.
My guess, too, is that, especially with the earlier sightings of strange creatures, my guess is going to be that those were most likely natural creatures. Now, some of the sightings, like I said, that are more modern, not the iPhone videos.
Yeah, those are.
But, again, the 2004 case, who's to say that couldn't be something else? I mean, given all of the things that we know and like to study about cryptids, Skinwalker Ranch, things like that, who's to say?
Right. So, who knows? Hard to say. Well, that does it for this episode. And as always, you can find us wherever it is that you listen to your favorite podcast. You can find us on lurkpodcast.com. That has all of our episodes. It also has links to our social media, which we have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, which I'm slowly uploading videos. Basically, just our episodes are on there. And, if you can comment, give us a review, anything, if you have a chance, that helps us get boosted up in, not ratings, but it lets us get recommended to other people. And that's great, because the more people who listen consistently, the better off we all are.
And it's fun.
It is. I mean, don't you love us? I mean,
lots of fun.
Really. We have merchandise.
The t-shirts are awesome.
Yes, Ange has
my whole family has them.
Her whole family has them. There's the tank tops are great. I wasn't sure. My daughter got one. I actually have to order one myself. Yeah. They almost feel like they're moisture wicking.
That's awesome.
And that's the women's flowy tank top is the one I think she ordered.
It's going to be awesome for gardening.
Yes, it is. We're exercising.
Gardening.
Yes, gardening. So they are great. And you can find in the show notes, I have the link to the merchandise. And also we have a domain name for that, which is now lurkpodcastmerch, merch.com. So you can go there directly and shop the store on there. And that'll do it for this episode. And as always, keep lurking.